All right. We're going to go live now, something I don't normally do, and it's on the election eve as we are about to go to pre-poll. So if you're watching this in the morning of May 12 and you're wondering what's going on, I think it's really important that we discuss what's happened overnight, and then we're going to talk about why the Emperor really has no clothes. It's pre-poll tomorrow, Monday morning, and it starts from 8:30. And it's extraordinary what's already happened. It's been reported to me that at East Maitland, at the Church of Christ, the number one pre-polling booth in Maitland, in the electorate of Patterson, Labor and Liberal have been there earlier this evening and have decided to plaster it wall to wall, trees, stones, rocks, with $20,000 plus of taxpayer funded merchandise in order to promote them to be re-elected. You can't make this stuff up. And these are the people that got us into $1 trillion worth of debt combined and decided that the best way out of this is to not talk about the debt, but instead to plaster it because they're threatened. Not seemingly by Neil Turner and One Nation. This is his fifth run at being elected for that party, but seemingly something else. And the only difference in this election, of course, is the Friends of Freedom in Patterson. And the Friends of Freedom consist of yours truly as the candidate for the United Australia Party, Sonia Bailey as the candidate for the Liberal Democrats, and Angela Kiedis as the candidate for the Informed Medical Options Party. What's going on? Why are they so scared of us? Are they threatened? Are they getting polling numbers that are very, very different to what is being put out there? And this must be the case, right? Now, we've seen in this electorate, Brooke Vitnell has got more signs than Coca-Cola in this electorate, and has dropped six figures on these types of marketing. Meryl Swanson's got her campaign going everywhere, but going nowhere at the same time because her party leader is now certainly the worst opposition leader in history, and that doesn't mean a whole lot because Joe Biden got elected in the United States. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk about the Emperor having no clothes. And I wrote this little piece last night, and it's too good to just put up as a written post. It needs to be read. It needs to be understood. And I want to give it some real color in light of what's going on today in Patterson as we move forward with this great big election that's coming. What's going to happen in Australia is going to change political history forever. I don't care where you're watching this from right now. It is going to change political history. And it started in Patterson. The Friends of Freedom was born here. So this election is characterized by two major parties responsible for the worst backward step in the history of our great country, Australia, the former penal colony, come lucky country, easygoing, hardworking, the land of opportunity that prided itself on larrikinism, egalitarianism, multiculturalism, welfare enhanced but free market, geographically isolated, providing free defence insulation, resource rich, arable, sunlit, surrounded by ocean and island continent, infinite possibility, the greatest country on earth. And yet you are here right now, where ScoMo opened the door to six power-drunk premiers and delivered to the World Economic Forum a country beholden to insurmountable debt, seemingly no way out, but 95% double-jabbed, yet no herd immunity, signatory to the World Health Organization, who organised this approach, this plan, and ScoMo's report card is considered world's best on their deliverables, but not in our best interests. More cases per day than in the first 6 months of the lockdown period. The first 1,000 deaths took 9 months. The second 1,000 took half that. And then the next 5,000 deaths in Australia in just the last 5 months in the period of Omicron, the harmless part of the virus, according to what the mainstream tells us. That is a 600% acceleration despite 95% double jabbed. So transmission and infection entirely failed. Deaths are down on percentage terms. Fatality now 1 in 5,000 cases of all ages, health and vaccine status, but up on expediency, an amount of people affected with just 0.1% of the country infected by last Christmas, and now over 20% of Australia has been infected less than 6 months later. 95% double jabbed. At a time when the origins are not known, with no intention by the government or opposition to investigate or be opposed for not thinking, bothering or suggesting, we do just check for the sake of the country before we simply outsource responsibility as a sovereign government to a higher power, that of a private global organisation run by a former member of a terrorist group from Ethiopia. And that's from Bloomberg, from the article 6th of May 2021, unupdated November 2021. Ethiopia declares Tigray Oromia groups terrorist organizations. That is the Ethiopian government. You can't make this stuff up. And I want you to hold that thought on globalism for just a moment when we prove it. Then we have Albo, who has now declared in the Weekend Australian that he is not concerned about government debt or paying it off, just that his plan is, wait for it, quality expenditure. He's treating running the country like a game of SimCity in cheat mode. Not knowing the cash rate, the inflation rate, or his own 6-point plan to fix the NDIS that he is taking to the election, asking to be put in charge of the Australian government. Meanwhile, the NDIS is now run like word cover and outspending claimants 10-1 just to deny their claim. If he doesn't know these simple facts, what does he do between press conferences? He knows he's losing traction every day, and in another unlosable election, he's trying to kickstart and reboot a campaign that flatlined 2 weeks ago, including a flip-flop on coal that even Pat Conroy, the member for Shortland, overshot. Let's address quality expenditure, shall we? And let's talk about climate change. In the Hunter Valley, 20 coal mines are expected to pay out an average of $28 million each in carbon fees, known as part of the Sustainable Mechanism approach, per annum. And these figures have been supplied by the Clean Energy Regulator, August 2021. Just to stay in business, like a kind of tribute from a gangster movie, whilst the government punishes its own people, the people of the Hunter electorates, Hunter, Newcastle and Patterson, to close coal mines, lose jobs, at least 10,000 directly, and affect 65,000 indirect jobs to achieve a target that has already been reported to not be possible, of dropping global temperatures 1.5 degrees in order to make a contribution to alleviate the weather. Our contribution in Australia to these emissions on a global scale is 1.3%. Meanwhile, China contributes 31.9%, but they're not required to make any contribution to this target at least until 2030, and are allowed to even double emissions in that time. Does that stink? Tanya Plibersek says we're not concerned about how other countries behave. Then who does she work for as we watch our region be decimated by net zero ideology? If we are performing a virtue signal show to the world, but at a price of taking away the way of life and livelihoods of our electorate from us, then these people who support this are not fit for purpose. There are 6 coal-fired power stations left here, and yet there are thousands burning in China and India, and many more being built. Why are we directly slaughtering our own regions and our own people? Tanya, Dan Repicoli, Meryl Swanson, Sharon Clayton. Why? If they want to close down coal, then they should have its replacement up and running already, not its inducement to close it down. And for who? And for what? If Labor and the Greens are truly serious about climate change in this country, why aren't they talking about industrial hemp? If the UAP held government, we would introduce a zonal tax reduction of 20% below capital city rates just for living 200 kilometres from a capital city. You could run, for example, a hemp farm anywhere, capturing tunnelled water that we could build from the northern rivers. When we're ready to talk about green properly in Australia, we will need to discuss modern nuclear, which is safe, easily cooled now, and recognising uranium and rare earths for their value and their solutions. Clean, reliable energy in abundance and perpetuity. The possibility of paying down our debt with an export licence of iron ore. So simple and so perfect. It changes Australia's significance in the region with one simple policy. On a resource, we dominate the world in both supply and quality. For those who say an export licence of 15% will lose business, I say look over there at Clive Palmer, the same way we used to look at Wally Lewis. You hated Wally when he wore maroon, but loved him when he wore green and gold. Who better to negotiate our trade deals than the man who became a billionaire by doing iron ore deals with the rest of the world? Who is putting up that industry, not to profit, but to underwrite the debt reduction plan that saves every single Australian from the burden of a debt that is now over $40,000 for each living Australian today. I'm just waiting for the moment when Clive Palmer says, "Hold my beer." He is spending $60 million on a campaign, he said, less than the Liberals, who raised $83 million, and the Labor Party, who raised $66 million. Working for Clive is unique. You get unlimited opportunity, and that's because you fund your own campaign for your own electorate. And I bet China will hate that too, because Clive is the supreme negotiator. But what you do get is total self-sufficiency, a license and leverage. Call it a McDonald's franchise in getting into Parliament if you like. Next, the UAP will bring home around 20% of our super collection, around $1 trillion of the total, to provide investment in Australia at a time when the world is plummeting into a global financial collapse of high inflation, geopolitical uncertainty, and supply shortages everywhere. We cut the fringe benefits tax, a nasty tax that raises a mere $6 million a year, and we immediately boost hotels, restaurants, and cafes. And in the electorate of Paterson, that will send our beautiful holiday destination of Port Stephens into overdrive and set it up for a great recovery. We get to raise wages, boost incomes and profits, which in turn are taxable. We will also delay provisional tax. We'll write off HECS, which only collects around $4 billion a year, but has $68 billion on its balance sheet of growing bad debt. We boost the trades and the apprenticeships with the same rule to make university and TAFE free. You looking for a plumber lately? We fine-tune degrees, and this is a nation-building exercise. We jumpstart defence, and we immediately move into the 21st century and leap straight into the 22nd on our terms and free. The United Australia Party will create a Bill of Rights, a politically revitalised population, grassroots, built up to a citizen referenda. We review the entire system, we assess the Constitution and its execution, and we restore faith in government. Complete transparency, warts and all. If it doesn't happen this time, it will happen in the next. The war of ideas between the establishment and the people is waning. The jig is up. The emperor has no clothes. We know it, they know it, and it's only a matter of time before everyone else catches up. We've made it to the election period now, The postal votes are being sent in. Pre-polling starts Monday morning. It runs all the way through to Saturday, which will be the biggest election coverage. A weekend at the rally around Australia on the 14th, where TNT Radio, for whom I work for, will be covering the event, and I hope to be hosting that show around the world from Newcastle in what will be the biggest opportunity of my life, smack bang in the middle of an election campaign. Pre-polling will take a break on Sunday, and most of these pre-polls are done in church areas, so all those signs have to come down, and they start up again the following Monday and go all the way through to the election of Saturday, May 21st. The results are counted that night. It will be expected there'll be some upsets, some shocks, and a lot of counting to continue way after. I don't expect any form of result on the night. What I do expect to see is a lot of powerful people with their heads held low and the reality setting in that the people at long last have finally spoken, and it was the people that made and held them to account. I'm very proud of being able to get this far in an election campaign and very far to serve the people of my community of Paterson by showing them that this guy will not take a backward step against the tyranny that has been put upon us over the last 2 years and exemplified in this filthy election campaign in little old Paterson, which extends from Maitland in the west to Port Stephens in the east and encompasses the beautiful farmland and rich acreage properties around Madawi, covering Raymond Terrace and including the Williamtown Airport. We live in a beautiful part of the world here, and in just 1,123 square kilometres, a big seat, but a microcosm of Australia. Please come and visit us in the future and take a look around, and you too may want to take advantage of the opportunities that are here in the Hunter Valley, linked to coal mining, where, God willing, and the people saying, we will never, ever let these people destroy this beautiful town through net zero policies that are meaningless and useless. So we fight on, and I thank you for watching this unusual live event on World Series News and shared on my YouTube channel, but also to put it out there and share it on other pages if you can, because this really is the day in the sand where the invisible man, Jason Olbourne, is standing up and letting it be counted. The emperor has no clothes, and we are proving it every time we open our mouths. Thanks, everyone, for being involved. Friends of Freedom is the revolution. This is democracy in action, and I'll dare any media outlet to give me a buzz tomorrow, and I'll talk to you and explain what's happened, but I don't expect to hear from anyone. That's just the way it goes when you are doing your absolute best to define and defend two extremely ordinary approaches justified simply by saying, well, you don't count, you haven't got enough support left. That's all they have got. So let's show them the support and let's get out there. Thanks, everyone. See you all on the next show. This is Jason Olbourne for World Series News, and I'll share this over at the candidate page. See you later.